Yes, thank you. So welcome again. Denmark, New York, Zimbabwe. Let's take a moment to enjoy our little worldwide Sangha. Austria. And since we are still in the 49 days of Lama Zopa's passing, I would like to, like the other time, use some quotes from Lama Zopa for my notes. Before that, I would like to apologize for this short-term change. Yeah.
I tilted towards me a little bit.
So that just happens. But it's really nice that so many people joined so short-term. So what we have explored so far is the 4-point analysis, which is simplified the practice of finding out how the I appears, and then looking for it and not finding it. So the first step, the recognition of the object of negation. How does me, I, myself, how does it appear to me? And then looking for it and not finding it. It's unfindable because it doesn't exist. And unfortunately, we need to do that again and again. Most people. So there's a few people who look once and they don't find it and they are done. I mean, they are not enlightened, but they are liberated. But for us, probably it takes a while to look again and again and make it a daily practice. So particularly when we are triggered. So who is that who is afraid? Who is that who has a problem? Who is that who is sad? Who is that? Who is that who is thinking? Who is that who has feeling? Who is that who has a body? And then looking and not finding a self, not finding a me, not finding an I. Not finding a solid, separate, lasting I. Yeah. So in our first meditation, I would like to play with that a little. And I would like to use a particular flavor of the I, which many of us suffer from. And that is the I'm not good enough I. Yeah, I'm not good enough I. Because for many of us, there's not only a constant sense that there is a core here, that there's an owner, that there's someone who thinks, that there's someone who makes decision, that there's someone somehow being in the body somewhere, like a rider, maybe sometimes with a sense it's behind the eyes, or it maybe also appear more in the heart area or in the stomach area. So it feels to be in different locations. So that's one thing, but for many of us, that sense of I comes with a deep feeling I'm not good enough. And if you are someone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, there's a few people, I met some few people. Most of them were just so disassociated that they couldn't feel it. But some, there is some people who really grew up in a really safe attachment environment. So they really have a sense that they are lovable as they are. So there are people like that. But it's a very common mental disease in the West. The sense of, I'm not okay as I am. There's something wrong with me. I need to, my worth of being here doesn't just come with me being here. It depends on that I'm kind, that I'm productive, that I work on myself, that I'm more of this or more of that. So that's a very common, and it's so common, it's even not recognized as a parasite or as a mental, I wouldn't say mental disease, but like something which doesn't need to be there. And then some people try their whole life with not working methods and techniques to kind of fill up that hole, yeah, to kind of by seeking approval from others. The worst thing is when we bring this into a relationship and then we expect the other, who also feels he is not good enough, to kind of fill that for us, yeah, and that of course doesn't work. So in our meditation, I would like to connect this searching for the I with having this flavor for searching for the not good enough I. For some people, that not good enough can even be a kind of self-hatred or a lot of judgments again, towards who you are. Yeah, so who you are. And what if there is nothing there? So we're constantly judging something which, when we actually look there's nothing there. Yeah, we don't find it, it's unfindable. So we are trying to heal something, maybe with self-compassion even, yeah, which is unfindable. So just from the beginning, and I think I found 2 quotes of Lama Zopa going into that direction. I'm not talking about that you don't exist. So there is an I, a conventional I, a social I, and it is really helpful when that social I, which is not it's not a thing, it's a process. Yeah, it's a process of different parts of you, different habits. So that I, also sometimes called the conventional I or the merely labeled I, that I exists, and it is actually helpful when that is a so-called healthy I. Yeah, there's still no core in the unhealthy I or in the healthy I, but it is for your psychological development and for your being in the world. Of course, it is better to have to experience a non-existing healthy I than a non-existing crappy I. Yeah, so that makes sense because it has effects on how helpful you can be for other people, how you live your life, how you act. So if you feel identified with an unhealthy I, not knowing your boundaries, not being able to distinguish between your feelings and the feelings of other people, then it's difficult to help other people, to be of benefit. So the teachings on like in more Western thinking of developing a healthy ego still makes sense in this approach. Yeah? So there's no contradiction here. If we see the ego not as a thing, but as a process, and actually an open process without boundaries, yeah? And then it makes sense to also spend some time, kind of maybe parallel, to work on that, while at the same time deconstructing it as something solid, separate, and here independent, particular from thought. It doesn't exist independent from thought. The whole thing is made up. Healthy I and unhealthy I is made up. Yeah, but nevertheless, it has effects. Yeah, a dream also doesn't exist in the way it appears. So in a way, you could almost say the dream is not real. But when you are in the dream, also it's merely labeled, obviously, it's merely created by the consciousness of the dreamer. So in that way, you could say it's not real, it's unfindable as something you can touch, something you can find, but nevertheless, it has effects. If you are in the dream and you are criticized in the dream, then you respond with certain feelings, and you might even wake up and recognizing, oh, this was just a dream, but the feeling stays. So like a dream like that can influence the whole day how you feel. So it's not by saying something is merely labeled. We are not saying it doesn't has effects. It has. Yeah, it does. It matters. It matters how you think about yourself. Or so it's just thoughts, but it matters. So looking at this not good enough I can be a bit challenging. Yeah, it's kind of, it can be sad, you know, to start to recognize how hard you are on yourself and how many judgments are there. But it's really good to become aware of it, because you know what you become aware of, you can work with. You know what you feel, you can heal. So it's better to become aware of it than trying to push it away, suppress it, and then still it's influencing your daily mood. Yeah. So then it's better to see it, even if it's a painful, sometimes painful process. So let's take our seats. So you make yourself comfortable. There's a certain dignity in that gesture of taking your seat. But the most important thing is a certain friendliness and kindness. So it's not a military posture we are assuming. It's dignified, but also gentle. And if you like, at one point, maybe your eyes want to close. If you keep your eyes open, your gaze is relaxed. And then just take some time to settle into present moment awareness. Maybe first just noticing your whole posture. Maybe your body wants to correct the posture a little in the spine and in the position of your head, the hips. And there's no rush. It's like sliding, taking time to shift from the doing to the being. And the breath can be a bit of an anchor, but it's not a breathing meditation. But there is a bit of possibility to anchor with the breath. And maybe the breath wants to deepen for a few moments. So you can slide or drop into the felt sense of your body. And with the out breath, sometimes there's a possibility of some release. In the belly, in the shoulders. And you notice how the chair or the floor carries you. And let yourself be carried. Like really putting down the doing, the trying to get things done, trying to get somewhere, controlling, fixing, problem solving. So let's see if we can give ourselves that break. And embracing our inner life as it is. Unhooking from thought. So the radio station of the narrative self probably continues its advertising, but we can lovingly ignore it, unhook. And gravitating towards direct experience of the five senses, or here now probably it's the capacity to feel the spacious aliveness of your body, and then the sounds. Anchoring yourself in present moment awareness. And experiencing this shift, particularly if you have been living in the conceptual mind a lot today. So you experience a bit of a shift there. There's another way of being here. Then the thinking mind, the discursive mind. And dropping, sliding. And breathing, and letting be. Just letting this moment be okay, even if it doesn't feel so good right now. Maybe you notice that there's some stuckness or restlessness or fear, something. And we can drop all these words and just stay with how it feels. not doing anything with it. And breathing with it. So awareness and breath becomes like a hug or an embrace. And returning. And you can appreciate how the narrative dialogue tries to hook you. And as best as we can, we ignore the hook. And if we are hooked, we make this kind, gentle dropping again into the belly, into your hands, into the breath, into what is, into reality. And returning, resting. And then I invite you to more consciously step into the sacred space of our meeting, which is really a big space between north of Europe, south of Europe, United States, Zimbabwe, a strange experience that we are together, not knowing where this togetherness is happening. We can't find where our meeting is. Nevertheless, there is a meeting. It's undeniable. We can feel each other. And then for those of you who have a connection to Lama Zopa Rinpoche and the FPNT, let's open that circle of Sangha to the mandala of Lama Zopa Rinpoche and all the prayers being done right now. So we also call upon our refuge field. So we are here together as Sangha, but also we are protected and inspired by the presence of the Buddha. You are welcomed here as you are, as a human being with feelings. Nothing is excluded. And maybe you can allow yourself into an experience of feeling safe. You don't need to hide or leave something outside. Just be who you are. You bring yourself along. And again, only if it makes sense for you. Let's also fill this space with all the offerings being done right now. Flowers and candles and music and incense and prayers. Increasing the sense of being in a sacred space. And then resting. Just being. Breathing together as human beings with feelings. So now let's do a little experiment. And again, what is most important is that you stay loyal to your experience. So don't try to force something or just see what happens with my invitations. And stay somewhat connected with your breath and with felt sense of your body. And of course, we will use the conceptual mind a bit. But if you notice that you get distracted by something else, then you return to the breath and to present moment awareness and to your feelings. So as I said, we are looking for the I'm not good enough I. So maybe one way is, which doesn't work for everyone, but one way is to remember a situation recently where that was particularly strong. Yeah? A sense of shame, toxic shame, or toxic guilt. So there's also healthy shame, healthy guilt, but a sense of toxic shame, I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. And maybe you need another formulation than the one I'm using. I'm not lovable as I am. So, and then you connect with that sentence and you just notice how that feels. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I'm ashamed about myself. I'm not kind enough. I'm not working enough. I don't have enough friends. I'm really messed up. People don't like me. I'm excluded. because I'm not good enough. And so you use a bit of maybe memory, a bit of words, but try not to go too much into the thinking. So it's about becoming familiar how it feels in the felt sense of your body. And again, it might be not possible right now for you to feel something. So just bring some openness and curiosity. So where is it in the body? And maybe you can kind of localize it. Maybe it's more an overall sense within the emotional body. So maybe it's a bit vague. Could be also, it could be, if I would ask you now, where is it in the body, that you actually could localize it somewhere. You could say maybe it's in the stomach or in the solar plexus, but maybe it's more subtle than that. So where is it in the body? And you don't need to think about it a lot, just follow your intuition. How does it feel? What's the energy like? What's the flavor? How does it taste? And then when it fades, you might need to use a sentence again. I don't have the right to be here. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. So you use a sentence which works for you. But the purpose is to feel it in the emotional body, in the energy body. What's the shape? Maybe there's a color connected with it. Does it have kind of boundaries? Or is it more undefined? Maybe you notice some resistance, some fear. And then sometimes when we become aware of something, it starts to fade. So then we would need to return to the sentence, or maybe play with another sentence. And we are not doing this to make it go away, but really as an invitation with kindness and curiosity. And we're doing this together. So we're looking at something which most of us actually know in our own experience. We're doing it together as spiritual friends. So now we start a bit of an inquiry. So we look at this felt sense with the question, is this who I am? And you just look and you bring that question, is this who I am? And then you notice what happens. Is this who I am? So the other part of the not good enough I is thoughts. So let's look at the sentence. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. And maybe there's something else going on. Maybe you become aware of that voice, criticizing, judging, attacking you. So you look at that. So you let go a bit of the felt sense and you just look at the thoughts. And you look at your thoughts, at the beliefs. And with the same question, is this who I am? The thought of I'm not good enough. The thought of I should work harder, or I should be this or that. So you look at these thoughts. Is this who I am? And you recognize thoughts as thoughts. Is this who I am? And then we return to the sensations in the body, the felt sense in the body again. And then we again ask the question, is this who I am? These sensations in the body, is this who I am? And you notice what happens. And it doesn't matter what the answer is. Maybe there's a yes or a no. You just ask the question and you pause. Is this who I am? And then we turn again towards the thoughts. I'm not good enough. I should be this or that. Stories, memories, thoughts. So we look at the thoughts. Is this who I am? And you recognize thoughts as thoughts. So with the thoughts, it's quite easy to see that this is not who you are. It's thoughts. You're not just a thought. And thoughts have no substance. Actually, often when we look at them, they kind of are gone already. So you look at the thoughts. Is this who I am? And it's obvious that you are not that. You can't be. It's thoughts. Mere thoughts. They exist, but they are thoughts. And you are aware of them. So that also shows that you can't be thoughts because you're aware of them. They just happen. And they happen to you because you have thought them before. And most of them actually you didn't make up yourself, but you just heard it from others and then you believed them. So you look at the thoughts. Is this who I am? And then you rest. So, and then returning to the felt sense of your body. If the sensation disappeared, you might need to use the sentence again. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. And then you look at these sensations, the energy. So it's not something more subtle than just cause sensations in the body. And you look at it. And you see, yeah, that's sensations. It's an energy. Feels familiar. But it's not who I am. Because the sensations change and they are energy. And you're aware of them. So exactly as the same as thoughts, the sensations, they are objects within awareness. And still there might be a sense, identification. Yeah, this is who I am. This is really who I am. But look, is this really who you are? Or is there just a thought? This is who I am. So then you look at the thought and recognize that thought as a thought. And then you look again into the sensations, into the felt sense. And maybe you can go a little closer. Is this who I am? And if there's any sense of, yeah, that's who I am, then you recognize that as a thought. So now there might be still a sense that you are the one looking. Yeah? That there is something there, someone who's doing this inquiry. Yeah? So I am meditating. I am doing this inquiry. I am looking. I am aware of this in my body. So where is that I? Look. Where is that I which is looking, the observer I? Where is that? Look for that. And there's a sense maybe that you are the I looking, the I meditating, but look at that. Is there an I? Findable. In the body, in the mind, in your experience. And Whenever there's a sense of I or a thought, just look at it. Is this who I am? And no, you can't be it because you are what is looking. So, what is that which is looking? Look for the I which is looking. In the body, in the mind, so in your whole experience. Down, up, to all sides. Where's the I? The I which is looking, the observer I, the witnessing I. And then when you look and you don't find it, I promise you will not find that I, does not exist. You rest in the non-finding. Yes, there's a lot of stuff happening. There's sounds, there's thinking, there's feelings, processes. They happen. And they are non-static, impermanent. But there's no core, no center, no owner. There's thinking, but no thinker. There's feelings, but no feeler. There's hearing, but there's nobody hearing. And you have to look in your direct experience. Not finding a boundary, not finding a center. Just openness. And if something arises, particularly when it is somewhat unpleasant, you look for the I. Not finding it. And thoughts are recognized as thoughts. So if there's some confusion going on or a debate, that's thoughts. And then you rest. And not finding doesn't mean that there's nothing. That's of course obvious. Something is here. Something is happening. There's spacious aliveness. There's presence. But there's no I. And as soon as you find something which seems to be the I, it's obvious that it's an object, but we're looking for the subject. And we can't find the subject. It's a mystery. And we rest in the mystery of not finding, in openness. And something happens, something arises, particularly if it's something unpleasant. You allow that to happen. But who is experiencing this? Not finding an I. And then you notice the rest. In the mystery of not finding, which is not nothing, but it's also not something. It's openness, groundlessness. Thoughts are thoughts. Without any substance. And there's nobody thinking. And if you think, yeah, I am thinking, then look for that I. Not finding it. So, and then for a few moments, just be with whatever is. In the connectedness of our meeting. Just breathing. And resting in the mystery of aliveness. The mystery of that you are here. That you are alive. And that there is experience. Breathing, hearing, feeling. Resting. And then take your time to slide out. It's really helpful to have a sense that the meditation doesn't stop when you open your eyes. And appreciating that for most people, this collapse into the dualistic distortion happens very automatically in the moment when we open our eyes. There's immediately often a sense that you are inside and that there's an outside just separate from you. It's a very, very good way to kind of get a sense of this process of, I like the word selfing, because we are talking. So some people use the word ego or self, but we are not talking about a thing, we are talking about a process. And sometimes one can catch oneself. It's a bit like when you have awareness of waking up. Maybe some of you know the experience, like you wake up and you have a sense, you don't know who you are, where you are. And then if you have some curiosity and training there, you can actually notice how the process of selfing establishes itself. And one good way for the selfing to do that is to bring a problem into the present moment. Yeah. Then the self reminds what it is. Yeah? Remembers what it is. It's the I which has problems. So I think there was a question. Is it safe to do this deconstruction of the I without having a healthy I as a basis? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. But the tendency for me would be not to share this kind of meditation with someone who has a really unstable and distorted attachment, and yeah, no sense of boundaries. And so for that kind of person, this meditation could be a bit too much, too scary. Yeah, like it could lead into overwhelm. And the person I think who wrote about this the first time was John Welwood, I think in the 70s or something, and he came up with this phrase: there first needs to be a healthy self, and then you can deconstruct it, and it makes sense. But I think also, I mean, maybe we can. If this meditation is overwhelming for people, they wouldn't do it anyway anymore. And then for a person like that, I would say, do some inner work, do some trauma work, look at attachment, creating healthy attachments, possibly in a therapeutic relationship, but also if it's not really very destabilizing, it can be also done in a relationship to a spiritual teacher, or in some practices, grounding practices, refuge, self-compassion, things like that. Yeah. And as we know, there is many people there is again and again the experience also with plant medicine, which some plant medicine and also LSD can kind of push you into the experience of no self. And then if there's not a healthy container, then experiences like this can be destabilizing. It can lead into a psychotic experience. I don't think something like this would happen with a guided meditation, because we have defense mechanisms, or we would probably, something in us would, fortunately, would just drift off, or or do something else to kind of just not letting it in. But some if you use a bit more forceful practices with breathing and, you know, shamanistic practices, even if one doesn't use plant medicine, then it can be destabilizing. Yeah, so you can hear I'm very much into a combination actually for everyone. Yeah, because most of us have some developmental trauma and have some lack in a healthy attachment. So I think for most practitioners who really want to go deeply into the meditation on no self, I think some work around that, I think, is helpful. And if I mean, we all, well, I say it now, all. You never can say all, but I say it. So we all, at one point, have to learn to tolerate fear. Yeah, in this, in a deep self-inquiry. I haven't met anyone who hasn't shrinked in the face of groundlessness. It's instinctual. Yeah, it's similar to the fear of death. Yeah? So actually, in a really deep meditation on not finding the self, it's a kind of a bit of a rehearsal of the death process, because that's what's going to happen in the death process. Everything, you know, in the 8 dissolutions, that's how in the Tibetan tradition the death process is described as this 8 dissolutions. In the 8 dissolution, everything you think you are and everything you are identified with dissolves. You can't keep it going. Yeah, it's forced upon you because your mind is not able anymore to do that kind of identification. So, and then there is this nothing, which is the special nothing. Yeah, so the nothing, but what a nothing, like the nothing which is not something, but it's not like nothing, but it could, maybe nothing is a good word, because if you call it something else, then you would verify and solidify it into something. But that's the fear, that there is annihilation. So we have to go through that. But everyone, I guess. But if you have some developmental trauma, that kind of opening can be really overwhelming because it connects with unfelt feelings from your psychological history. So there is fear, and it can be difficult. But like a good enough healthy person will learn to stay there and feel the fear and move through it. But if that is not possible, so this fear becomes overwhelming, which would then lead to the sad thing that you think, I'm not doing this practice again because it's too scary. So that is probably a sign that it would be good to support the self-inquiry and the meditation on emptiness with some kind of catching up with something which was supposed to happen in your childhood. And for some people it didn't happen. And that's not it's not your fault. It's nothing to be ashamed of, or it's not that you are less of a practitioner. Yeah. Actually, if you are aware of this and you start to work on it, then you are a very mature practitioner. Yeah, so is there any other question, comment? How did the meditation go? Maybe it's good to stay with this for You want to say something, Amy? No, okay. I thought you would try to unmute yourself. Okay.
I just tried to get to see everybody, so it was my hand.
Yeah. It's nice to be in the gallery view. Yeah.
I'm sorry I was late, but had another appointment.
Yeah. It's good that you are here. Yeah, any comment about around the meditation? Was it did it make sense? Was it helpful? Was it difficult? Yeah, Ali. Oh, I don't hear you. Is that no? Is it only me or no? Okay.
Let's try that.
Yeah, now it works. Yeah.
So with the focusing on shame, like contracted self, like really strongly contracted. But for me, it took me a while because I do really strongly contract to the point of collapse, right? Because instead of like, where am I feeling it in the body, is like, you're not feeling it. I go all, so it took me a while to come back from that and be able to sit. And in the options of kind of where are you feeling it, what does it look like, how does it feel like, that just wasn't available to me. But I really do appreciate what you're saying around the balance of the healthy I and then the deconstruction of the I, and how I have really experienced the more I've worked in with my healthy I, with the attachment and the trauma work, that I can then sit in this kind of meditation and this deconstruction of the I, safer, and I can go deeper and I can hold it longer by doing that. So that like dual process coming together. Yeah, really
that makes sense. And another option is when we work with sentences like this, to find just the right one, which is not too triggering, but enough triggering. Yeah. So it's like, it can be a formulation which is a bit kinder, or so that's always, when we work with when we work with triggers, which is a good thing to do. It's helpful to use something which is the right amount, and then leaving the heavy stuff maybe to some other approach, So yes. Yeah, so if self-inquiry leads to any kind of overwhelm, or working with triggers, then it's good to change what we are working with, maybe, and emphasize more grounding, refuge, bodhicitta, guru devotion. That's why we train this stuff in the Lamrim. There the Lamrim again makes sense. Before we go into the deep self-inquiry in the structure of Lamrim, we have all the other stuff, and like in the first scope, the 7 preparation practices and things like that. And sometimes it looks a bit like, oh, this is so ritualistic, and but it makes sense, and we can make it something meaningful for us. Trying to find what is actually the essence of this so-called preliminary practices, and playing with them, and then discovering, hey, they make sense. It's helpful. Yes.
One comment in doing this meditation before, trying to find the I,
Mm,
your formulation of, is this who I am? Asking a question about each object of observation
yeah.
was most helpful to me. I don't think I've got that one before, and the realization that when
Yeah.
this who I am,
Yes.
it's very clear. No, this is not the I. This
Yeah.
is that was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
First time I've encountered that one.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, that what is the formulation for, even what is the technique for looking at the observer? Because it's the observer that is most clearly what I identify with as
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I can look at all of these things that I'm observing and know they are not me.
Yeah. Yes.
I am doing the observing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yes. So this this self-inquiry we did now deconstructs not the most subtle level of identification. Yeah? Because there is a more subtle self-identification than the identification with the content of our experience. So, and you're right, that's then a further step. Yeah? But it makes sense to start with that, with a coarse ignorance. Yeah, and then the question: so how do I move into Mahamudra? Yeah, how do I move into Dzogchen? Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole interesting topic. I mean, it would be nice if like a very common question in that kind of self-inquiry is, what is aware? Yeah, but
That's the question.
that's the question. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a topic for another session. That's so what is aware? That's the $1 million. No, it's not just $1 million question. It's the one question which is worth to dedicate your life to. Yeah. And it's a question which is you can't answer it. So, but it and its variations. So there's exactly with this. It's the first time now you heard this question: is this who I am? So there's variations, and different questions and different pointers work for different people. So it is, but what is aware? That question in its variations has the potential, when the time is ripe, to reveal an experience. and there is no, for the revelation of the experience. So you're being taken by that experience. There is no formula which works always. So there I found it helpful, kind of, to use a Christian term. There is something like grace. It's not in our hands. Meaning it's not in the hand, in the hands of the mini-me, of the egoic structure. It's not in our hands. We can't. We as mini-me's, we can't do it. But we can go to the threshold. So with our practice, we can go through the thresholds between the dual distortion and reality. So there's something we can do. We can do the lamrim. We can, traditionally, you could say you accumulate merit, you purify. So that brings you to the threshold. And then there is something which remains a mystery. It seems that guru devotion helps. Some people would say without that it's not possible, but I don't know if that is propaganda, but guru devotion definitely, like letting go, because you really need to slip. Something needs to die. You need to make a step into the unknown. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's your name?
Dawn.
Dawn. Okay.
I am not Judith.
Yeah, I thought so. That's why I asked you.
Judith, computer. My name is Dawn.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I am very happy to have run across you in I first met you in one of the Lama Zopa sessions earlier this week.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay. So was there something else? Ali?
This is more of a conceptual question, which kind of, I realize,
Yeah.
goes against the purpose. But
No.
and it's going back to my proper understanding of Buddha nature, because my question here is, are we in these inquiries, are we kind of stripping things away and stripping things away and stripping things away, and we're going towards, and I feel like I need to be able to label or somehow.
Yeah.
At the same time, I feel like that's kind of counterproductive to the process.
No, I think it depends how in which way we use these words, so, and as you said, I feel I need to label it. How else, how else could we talk about this? So if we start to feel, when we use the word Buddha nature, like if I use the word Buddha nature, my mind stops. So when I use, and that's why I play around with different terms. That was also when I said it's something and it's not, it's not nothing. And, this is like just, I could also just have said Buddha nature. But then for some people, when they hear a word like Buddha nature, because they have heard it before, they, yeah, it's a Buddha nature. I know what he's talking about. Now I feel good, you know, like, okay, I don't need to think about this because I know what Buddha nature is. I studied it, yeah. But you can't know what Buddha nature is. It's unknowable. It's not an object of knowledge. It's undescribable. It's ungraspable. And that's why, that's one of the reasons why in the Geluk tradition, they don't say anything about this. The only thing they would say, maybe it's the emptiness of your mind. Yeah, Buddha nature is the emptiness of your mind. Yeah, but there's other tradition in like in the Mahamudra tradition, practitioners they more use when they want to share their experience, they more use words from the Yogacara practice, Yogacara philosophy, like describing, making words around the experience, because it doesn't feel like nothing. Yeah, but as soon as you say something about it, you solidify it too much. And then Prasankika Madhyamika would say, no, it's not like that. You're talking about something, and that's not emptiness. But the experience, and if you emerge from the experience and you want to somehow share it with others, then you start to make words about it, and nobody understands, so you make more words, and nobody understands, and then you develop a philosophy, and you write commentaries and commentaries and commentaries, and then other people feel they need to study all these commentaries. And they miss the point that this is actually a mystic tradition. It's not a philosophical tradition. It's a mystic tradition. It's a transmission of a direct experience. Yeah, and that's one way to describe it. It is letting go of the identification with the content of your experience, like dying, and then there's this, yeah. Then there's the nothing, which is everything. Yeah, maybe it's good to stop here. Tomorrow I want to explore a bit dependent arising or co-emergent arising with some quotes of Lama Zopa. Or maybe I didn't use the quotes today I wanted to use, but yeah, I think sometimes it's helpful for us to not make it so philosophical, cognitive, but more experiential, and then like taking some time to bring it a bit more into experience. And then fortunately, there's plenty of really qualified teachers in the Shantideva Center who can give you the other stuff. Yeah? So otherwise I would feel a bit like that I should do the other stuff also, yeah. But I can wholeheartedly leave that to the others who are much better in that. Yeah. So let's take a few moments to reconnect with your experience, how it is now, after our inquiry and our connection is this appreciation. It's noticing how it feels for you to be here now. And then if you have listened to Lama Zopa before, maybe you have heard him saying that the most powerful way to accumulate merit, I don't like that formulation, but accumulate merit, so is to reflect on emptiness. Yeah, so I've heard him saying that a lot. That's more powerful than making offerings to all the Buddhas. So this is really so fortunate, even in our like beginner's way and kind of probably mistaken, but just together to reflect on this and meditate on this. You know, that's the most powerful way to repay the kindness of the Guru. Because that's what cuts to the nightmare of selfishness, of self-centeredness. That's the only thing which cuts through that. So that is what cuts to the root cause of war, of climate collapse, is the realization of emptiness. That's the only hope. So, in whatever positive energy potential arose from our meeting, we share into the mandala of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And he is very, very happy. And of course, then he wants to come back to finish the job. No doubt. So may all beings wake up from the distortion of reality into how things really are. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Hopefully, some of you. And I will lead now the meditation in half an hour, but it's another link, the prayer for the swift return for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So if you have a bit more time, you can. Is the link on the website? I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, link's on the website, but it's on the homepage,
Okay.
on the top banner, you'll see it.
Yeah.
You don't have
Okay.
to register, just click on the link.
So you're very welcome. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you, Stephan.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.